Okay, thank you. Welcome and good evening to the business meeting of January 15th, 2019. This meeting is also being broadcast live and will be replayed on Channel 77 throughout the week. Nicole, can I have a statement of compliance, please?
Adequate notice of this business meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Publics Meeting Law, PL 1975, Chapter 231, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this business meeting by consent agenda resolution number 2019-11, adopted January 2nd, 2019, through a legal notice published in the Suburban Trends, issue of January 13th, 2019, and through notices emailed to the following named newspapers and posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall January 7th, 2019. The Suburban Trends and the Bergen Record.
Okay, roll call.
Mayor Martucci,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Noonan,
Here.
Council Members Bolton,
Here.
Davisson, Ferretti,
Here.
O'Keefe,
Here.
Spear.
Here.
Okay, also present is Borough Manager, Director of Public Works Scott Heck, Acting Municipal Clerk Nicole Langenmeyer, and Borough Attorney Richie Klimak. Please rise for the pledge of flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, Councilman Dennison called. His wife had surgery today, so he's not going to make it this evening.
We express good tidings. Proclamations and presentations. Okay, we'd like to recognize the Board of Health for the 100th anniversary this year. Whereas the Ringwood Board of Health held its first organization meeting at the Ringwood store on February 11th, 1919 at 3:00 p.m. And whereas the public health was increasingly recognized as a response to combat infectious diseases, and whereas the Spanish flu was ravaging the United States and the world, whereas these diseases such as measles, whooping cough, and varicella will cause an increased childhood morbidity and mortality. And whereas a dedicated visionary group of Ringwood residents came together to form a Board of Health that would monitor the health status of individuals and the community at large, and whereas the Board of Health would enact ordinances to benefit the welfare of all residents. And whereas a dedicated group of Ringwood men and women have dedicated their valuable time, talent, and knowledge by continuing to serve the borough of Ringwood for 100 years. Therefore, they had earned the respect and gratitude of generations of Ringwood men, women, and children, and are congratulated on their selfish dedication for a century of service. Congratulations. What I'd like to do is move up a resolution that we had called Stigma-Free Communities Resolution. I'd like Paula Tedesco to come up and speak about it.
Good evening. My name is Paula Tedesco, and I reside at 95 Upper Lakeview Avenue. I've been a psychiatric nurse for over 40 years and firmly believe that there is no health without mental health. Mental health issues are more common than heart disease, lung disease, and cancer combined. All of society is affected by these issues in some way, shape, or form. 1 in 4 Americans is affected with a diagnosable illness, and many more do not seek help. We have all experienced mental health challenges at one time or another, or have certainly encountered someone in our family, workplace, school, house of worship, or in the community with these challenges. Shame and stigma prevent us from talking about these issues and prevent us from seeking help. Stigma is a series of negative attitudes and beliefs that affect how we view the world and people who are different from us. Many groups have been stigmatized especially the mentally ill, including those with substance abuse problems. Thankfully, gone are the days when the mentally ill are locked up in cages and were put away for life. Unfortunately, fear, distrust, prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination still exist. So what is this stigma-free campaign all about? Allow me to provide a little history. Acting Governor Richard J. Cody signed the executive order that created the Governor's Task Force on Mental Health in November of 2004. Its purpose was to investigate New Jersey's mental health system and to develop solutions to the obstacles that currently face the mentally ill and their families. One of the recommendations of the task force was the establishment of a Governor's Council on Mental Health Stigma. In 2013, Paramus became the first municipality to declare itself stigma-free. In 2015, the New Jersey State Legislature urged all counties and municipalities to become stigma-free, and in 2016, the Passaic County Board of Chosen Freeholders supported the designation of stigma-free zones in every municipality. Today, every municipality in Bergen County is stigma-free, and the movement is growing statewide. Of the 16 municipalities in Passaic County, the following are already stigma-free: Clifton, Woodland Park, Hawthorne, Bloomingdale, Wayne, Patterson, and Pompton Lakes. Many businesses, organizations, and schools have declared themselves stigma-free as well. It's time to add the borough of Ringwood to this list. I have been collaborating with our health department nurse, Jeanette Davison, regarding mental health issues, as she has been interested in promoting mental health activities for the community. We agree that reducing stigma is a good first step, as this is the biggest barrier preventing individuals from seeking services. Increasing awareness and providing more education for the community and in our schools is the key. I hope you will all join me next Wednesday at 7 at the library when I'll be discussing mental health awareness. I am encouraging the council to support me and the health department in this endeavor. We are about to establish the Ringwood Stigma-Free Task Force, and we'd like to invite Mayor Martucci and the other council members and anyone else who is interested to join us. The library, the New Weiss Ecology Center, and the Girl Scouts have already expressed interest. Remember, there is no health without mental health. Let's fight stigma together and declare the borough of Ringwood a stigma-free community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me? Would you like me to read the resolution?
Yes.
The mayor asked for this resolution to be put on the agenda for this evening. Resolution 2019-46, whereas the Passaic County Board of Chosen Freeholders, along with the Passaic County Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and the Mental Health Association of Passaic County, supports the designation of stigma-free zones in every municipality. And whereas the National Institute for Mental Health reports that 1 in 4 adults experience the mental illness in a given year, and 1 in 7 adults live with a serious mental illness, such as, I'm sorry, I can't read some of these things, major depression, bipolar disorder. Approximately 20% of our youth ages 13 through 18, and 13% of our youth ages 8 through 15 experience severe mental disorders in a given year. And whereas stigma associated with the disease of mental health is identified as a primary reason for individuals failing to seek help that they need to recover from the disease, and whereas stigma-free zones aim to inspire public interest and help open dialogues about stigma, raise awareness about the disease of a mental illness, and create a culture wherein residents have the disease of mental illness and feel supported by their community and neighbors and feel free to seek treatment for the disease without fearing stigma. And whereas promoting awareness that there be no health without mental health will break down barriers and encourage residents of all ages to be mindful of their mental health and ask help where needed. And whereas local resources are available to treat the disease of mental illness so that no resident needs to suffer alone or feel hopeless. And whereas established stigma-free zones raise awareness and resources and encourage the residents to engage in care as soon as they need it is identified to recover can begin. Hope is inspired and tragedies can be avoided. And now therefore be it resolved by the Borough of Ringwood recognizes that the community needs and supports the efforts of the Passaic County in the designating of Ringwood as a stigma-free zone. Mayor Tucci.
Okay, thank you.
So moved. Second?
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Noonan?
Yes.
Bolton?
Yes.
Peretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
No.
Okay, Mayor, you want to go back to
Yes.
approval of minutes?
Okay, approval of the,
The business meeting, November 27th, 2018. Councilmember Davison was absent.
So moved.
Second.
roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison? Peretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
And Spear?
Yes.
And then we have a special meeting, December 11th, while we're present.
Have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Peretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to open up the meeting to general public portion. Please try to keep it to 3 minutes and keep it concise.
Rich Eversbach, 120 Upper Lakeview Ave. So this is really addressing the freshman council. If I know in the spring we got a $1 million budget gap to close, and wondering, you guys been around for a year, you've had, just wondering if we got any, basically what are we talking about? Raising taxes, raising revenue, or cutting services? Is there some plan that we have? Has, you know, for instance, we create any revenue with the ecotourism, or, you know, I know what these guys want. They've been around for a couple of years, so we're pretty good with their policies. But just wondering before we get to the spring, if you guys got anything on the table. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everybody. I am Chair of the Environmental Commission. Thank you, Mayor. And at our last meeting, the Environmental Commission, well, I sent you all an email letter yesterday. You may not have gotten it or seen it, so I'm here to underscore what I sent to you. And it went like this. Pretty simple. The Environmental Commission has reviewed the groundwater-focused feasibility study prepared by Cornerstone Engineering Group, LLC, for the Superfund site. And it is our recommendation to the mayor and council that the borough manager be directed to arrange for an independent peer review of this study using existing available data and previous studies. The purpose of this analysis would be to ensure that the best, most responsible remedial actions possible are selected for the Ringwood Mines landfill Superfund site. So thank you very much for your consideration, and I hope you do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Can I get a motion?
Seeing no one else, move to close.
Second?
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. There's no old business. There's no new business. And we have resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2019-35, whereas the Chief Financial Officer has certified the funds are available for the payment in the current bill list in the amount of $575,276.16. Supplemental payments in the amount of $3,748,201.57. Merchant services fees in the amount of $121.81. Alpoa Dam Assessment Fund in the amount of $24,806.15, all to be credited to the following accounts for a total of $4,348,407.69, of which $1,903,047 goes to the Board of Education, and $1,144,245 goes to Lakeland Regional High School.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Resolution 2019-36, whereas the professional services contract was awarded to Schwanawee Halls Engineering for survey, design, and rock profiling of Erskine Road and Lakeview Avenue Improvement Project, contract number 2018-101, on August 21st, 2018, in the amount of $32,000. And whereas Schwanawee Halls Engineering has submitted and the Borough Engineer has reviewed and recommends payment in the amount of $15,000, invoice number 33168, is dated December 21st, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved, the Municipal Council of the Borough of Ringwood hereby approves the payment in the amount of $15,000 to Schwanawee Halls of Oakland, New Jersey.
This is one of the first steps in the whole Lakeview drainage thing, right?
This is the profiling, this is,
One of the early steps.
yes, the early steps, correct.
Of the design.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Resolution 2019-37, whereas the Borough of Ringwood announced through notice to published of the Suburban Trends issued November 28th. It's in its website as for solicitation of proposals for professional services for municipal auditor for 2019 through a fair and open process. We received 2 bids on December 12th, 2018 by the Borough Clerk. Now therefore be it resolved in Municipal Council, the following professional appointment and execution of contract is made for the Borough Auditor for 2019 in accordance with NJSA 40A:11-5. And that would be to Nissa Vaccia LLP of Newton, New Jersey.
And why are we switching from the other auditor? Is that to put this auditor in? But I'm not understanding.
This is a resolution. We received 2 bids, and I
Okay.
believe that all the bids were distributed to the mayor and council.
Right.
And the recommendation of the finance committee as well as the CFO was for this. I'm sure they could speak to the issue.
All right, I did look at that, and I noticed that they didn't have any clients in Passaic County. There was only, that I had noted when I was looking at their county bids. And also Ferrioli was one that,
Can I ask you to speak louder? I'm hearing impaired.
Oh.
And I really can't.
sorry, yes.
Thank you.
And I know Ferrioli was our auditor for 30 years previously. Is there any reason why we're moving away?
Well, that's probably one of the reasons. Okay, you need, when you're having someone do your audit, having someone do your books, sometimes need a pair of fresh eyes, okay?
What I suggest, we'll get into the details of comparing, comparing professional service, et cetera. It should be done in the interest of privacy and executive session. If you're gonna get into that level of detail, it's fair enough, but just a discussion, because you may be determining the quality of service, so that's gonna be a discussion. And it's only fair that if the privacy rights of the applicants be considered, okay? So we could do it in executive session, if you're gonna
Okay.
get that deep into discussion. Okay, so that's up to you. You want to make a motion to discuss it in executive session?
Sure.
Motion to discuss that in executive session.
I'll second it.
Hold on, Dick. What up?
Yeah, Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Yes, I'll do a more, complete resolution later on, because I have a matter too, and I'll include it, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
2019-38, a resolution of authorization of award for a non-fair and open contract for the Borough Attorney for 2018. This is a proposal for Mr. Klimek Services for $45,500 for the year, for your consideration.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Resolution 2009-38, whereas notice the bidders for electrical work at Borough Hall Facilities, contract number 2019-101, was advertised in accordance with the local public contract law, and whereas 2 bids were received, open and read on January 10th, 2019, whereas the said bids were reviewed and recommended by the Borough Engineer, Jeffrey Uhas, and whereas the Chief Financial Officer has certified the funds are available, now therefore be it resolved that the contract for the electrical work at Borough Hall, contract 2009, be awarded to the low bidder, Ray Nebaker Electric of Ringwood, New Jersey, for a 36-month contract ending December 31st, 2021, at their regular bid price of $98.67 per hour, and a secondary election being $88.10 per hour. Be it further resolved that the bid deposits be returned to the unsuccessful bidder, and that be it resolved that the mayor and council are hereby authorized to execute the mayor and the municipal clerk are hereby authorized to execute the agreement. I will tell you that Mr. Nebaker has been our electrician for a long time. He's very responsive, and he serves the community well, and I would recommend that you continue with that service.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Resolution 2019-40, whereas on December 19th, 2018, the borough announced through its published notice in the Trends, December 18th, municipal website as well, a solicitation for proposals for professional services for Labor Council for 2019 through the same fair and open process. 2 proposals were received on January 10th. The following professionals were appointed for the execution of the contract. For Labor Council would be Kaufman, Ceramento, and Semarero and Liebman. I also recommend, we're in the middle of quite a few litigations as well as some labor contracts. I would recommend that this would not be an appropriate time to change, and we've gotten very good results from this firm for your consideration, Mayor.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. Go up to consent agenda.
Consent agenda, Resolution 2019-41, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Ringwood has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions. Now therefore be resolved, the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. 2019-41, approval of the consent agenda. 2019-42, authorizing closing Skyline Drive for St. Patrick's Day Parade on Saturday, March 23rd, 2019. 2019-43, authorize the use of the Park and Ride facility for St. Patrick's Day Parade, Saturday, March 23rd, 2019. Authorize lien redemption, Block 877, Block 16.01. 2019-45, approval of payroll and payroll transfers for the month of December 2018.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay, Scott.
Yes. Quite a few things to go through this evening. The Borough of Wanacue has contacted me regarding a shared service for a construction official for the Borough of Wanacue. Currently, we're covering the Wanacue department for, they don't have a construction official. And I talked to the Finance Committee about this, and they seemed in favor of negotiating for this service. I'm asking the council to, if in fact you're interested, to give me authorization to negotiate with Wanacue for those services for a part-time coverage for their construction official only, as outlined in some of the memos that I shared with you. It's a service that, similar to what we've done in the past, we've covered for them before. They have other building inspectors and so forth, but they need a code enforcement. As you know, we lost some revenue from Wanacue when they moved the health services to Passaic County. This would help to buffer some of that stuff and help a neighboring community. They'll save a little bit of money, and we'll save a little bit of money, and we'll probably hire a part-time person that will help us to maybe be here as a buffer to help on the days that we don't have enough personnel as well. So I think that all around it was a good idea. It's not a major shared service agreement. I mean, we were talking in the range of $60,000 a year, and we wouldn't profit a whole lot. We might, at the end of the day, profit, $10,000 or $15,000, if that. But it gives us an additional employee to help with the times when there's vacation, and it also will help the neighboring community to save some money as well. So I would encourage a resolution like that if the mayor and council would consider it.
We've also done some shared service with our engineering also, correct?
Yeah, currently.
With the drainage project and the paving and stuff?
Yeah, our engineer does shared service with them. He does all of their road paving programs right now. They pay us to do that, and that's a way that we can generate a little bit more revenue. So.
And it may, quote unquote, only be 10 or 15,000, but every dollar helps, so.
The additional employee, part-time, would help when you can't have a construction officer in Ringwood gone for 5 days when you're on vacation because you have people in for permits and they need to construct. So there will be an ancillary benefit to us in having someone else we can go to. So I have a primitive resolution if for Mr. Klimek, if you would like to mark this up by all means.
And what is the contract amount?
I have to really negotiate what the services are with them.
But it would be in the area of what?
It'll be in the area of $60,000 a year.
All right. Okay.
And to clarify, just the figures that we were talking about, even including the part-time coverage, we still have a net benefit.
We'd have a net benefit. Those net benefits, depending upon what the outcome of the negotiation will be, could vary slightly, but I distributed it all to.
Oh, is this clarifying for the record?
Yeah, all right. Whereas the Borough of Wanacue is desirous of entering into the shared services agreement with the Borough of Ringwood for the services of a construction code official, now therefore be it resolved by the municipal council, that hereby authorizes the borough manager to negotiate and enter into a shared service agreement and sign the said service agreement on behalf of the borough, okay, with respect to the service of the construction code official, the approximate amount of contract, approximate amount, 60, is that it?
Yes, correct.
$60,000, okay?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Who did the motion?
I did. Sorry, Mayor.
We previously had a health department, but we did build, when they had,
My cap.
when they had a building inspector that had some health issues, we did cover a year or so ago for a long period of time that they paid us for as well.
What would that be, 2019, 47,
48.
48?
The executive session I put is 47.
I see, oh, yep, I see that, okay.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. Is there attorney's report?
Yes, for the executive session, I can recite the executive session issues now if you'd like, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, resolve that the municipal council enter into executive session to discuss the following matters: the case of Mid-American Salt LLC versus Morris County Co-op, Ringwood, and others. Okay. The appointment of auditors, the receipt of auditor proposals. These are contractual issues. Okay. Are there any other items, Scott, you would want in executive session?
I wasn't finished with the manager's report, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Sorry
I'm
about
sorry,
that.
we superseded you. I can't stop now, Scott.
No, you
Be
did.
further resolved that minutes of the meeting have been maintained and available for public inspection. Upon conclusion of the same, the public is advised that when the municipal council returns to the executive session, may take formal action on any matter discussed therein, or may take formal action on any other matter. Just for the public, no, we're not going in right now, we're just doing the resolution right now, okay? Motion,
So moved.
sorry?
I move, so moved.
Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
All right, Scott, one.
Okay. I'm sorry. I stalled too long, Mayor. One of the things that I'm requesting, Mayor, of you is I need a finance committee for 2019 so we can continue with the budget process. I know you talked about the, who's going to be on the finance committee, but I need just some clarification so that I can get some committee meetings set up
When do you need it?
as soon as possible.
All right.
So, also, I was asked for a recycling update, so as at the end of the year, so I have that this evening. And it's broken down in a couple different categories for recycling center and tonnage and so forth. So, sales of recycling materials from the recycling center have increased a little bit this year. In 2016, our sales were $26,517.77. In 2017, sales of the recycling center were at $37,177.38. That's up 40% from the year before. And this year, we have revenue of $38,338, so it's up another 12%. Interestingly, the tonnage is up this year for recycling materials 12%. So that's a good thing. Anytime we take that much money out of the waste stream, it saves money and it keeps our landfills clear. So at the garbage contractor, who picks it up actually at the curb, different than the recycling center. In 2017, our garbage declined. We average 4,000 tons a year. So in 2017, it was 4,371 tons. In 2018, it was 4,197 tons. So we were down 4% on our tonnage. So that saves money in tipping fees. And our recycling center equally was up this year 8.4% at the curb. So we're doing less garbage, which is saving us tipping fees, and we're recycling more, which our recycling costs have gone up, but it's keeping some of that stuff out of the landfills. Because we recycled in 2018, I'm happy that we received $29,766.81 in a grant, which was increased from the year before. Due to our tonnages being up. And 2018 tonnage grant, which is actually for 17, the state is a little late on writing checks, it was $17,256.28. So that's additional revenues, all because of the recycling and the job that we do here. And I just ask everybody to keep in mind the objective when it comes to recycling. There's a couple of objectives that we have here, and I'm hoping everybody shares this. Provide a place to take the materials to for the residents so it doesn't end up dumped illegally, because we certainly don't want to have that. To reduce the amount of materials that end up in landfills. Let's face it, landfills get filled up, then what are we going to do with that? And also to reduce the cost of tipping fees. And on the above notes, you'll notice that we've achieved all of those goals, and we'll continue to work on those, and we're trying to be pretty progressive with some different ideas to bring in some revenues for the recycling center. But I was asked for that, so that's why I bring that for you tonight. I just also want to remind you that it's that time of the year where we're starting to work on our stormwater regulations. Our stormwater regulations have been significantly increased and will certainly require more effort and more labor and more monitoring. We talked about that at length at the last meeting. I also received a proposal from Langen Engineering for James Drive Treatment Plant. We talked about at the last month meeting that we got approval to extend the time by which we can change for the zinc removal at the James Drive Treatment Plant. I got a proposal from from Langen Engineering for the James Drive treatment plant to resolve that. And I will distribute this all to you. It's something that I would like to award sooner rather than later. It's an award for the design supervision and getting all the technical data, the design report, the plans and the wastewater permits and the specifications for the treatment plant to be in compliance. We have a short deadline on that, and the total cost of the contract is $135,000. That's the pre-application meeting with DEP, existing conditions map, technical design reports, preliminary layout drawings, 100% construction drawings, permit and revisions through the approval process, construction administration, and project management meetings. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time. I just received this, so if you want to hold this off to the next meeting, you probably can. But I do think that we need to resolve the issue so that we can get this designed and built before the end of November of 2019.
What are we talking about?
I don't 100% know. We will probably have to bond whatever it is. We have capital funding that would pay for this. I think it's about $170,000 of capital funding right now for the James Drive design that's set aside for the James Drive treatment plant. We did some renovations of it this year, so we're not rolling any cash into that account from surplus. So you would have to fund the project. The project could be a substantial project, but that's stuff that we can talk about once the design is done.
And this is just for the design?
Well, no, it's the design, the inspection, the mapping, the permitting. It's for, and their supervision of the construction and whatnot.
But it doesn't cover the construction
Not the
costs of
construction
solution
itself. I would expect the construction to be between $600,000 and $800,000. That's just a rough estimate. So.
Can we talk about this in this executive?
Sure, absolutely. Mr. Klimek, you want to list this?
In executive session?
Contract negotiations?
Yes. Okay, we'll add this, right? Let me just add proposed contract for wastewater engineering services, James Drive plant, the proposed contract with Langen Engineering Environmental Services. A motion to add that to the list of executive session items.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
As requested, I met with St. Catherine's, and we're currently leasing space for the basketball program. And we are also talking about the potential of a long-term lease or purchase for part or all the facility. I know that the council members had asked me to look into that as a possible community center. So I've been doing that over the past bunch of months, and as I have more information, I certainly will bring it forth to you guys. But we have had our first initial meeting, and we are using it through May. I think 3 or 4 days a week. So we've closed out the 2018 and set up the temporary budget for 2019, and we're working on that budget. While we don't have surplus numbers yet, it appears that based upon the preliminary numbers, we're close to $1 million that needs to be cut out of the budget in order to maintain a flat budget. That could change a little bit based upon surplus. We don't know how much money we're actually putting into surplus. I think that as I talked about for a while, we're not as we cut the budget tighter and tighter and tighter, we're not generating as much surplus as we used to generate. And with that, we don't put as much money into surplus, and as you know, we take money out of surplus each year to offset the cost of the budget. Each year that's been challenging. I think last year we saw a drop, and I think this year again we're going to see a drop, and that's not something that all of you have not been aware of. So I'm sure you know it's coming. So this time of the year, I just remind everybody about the projects that we've done, the things that we have to do. Go to report a problem, and please fill out those things. That's how we generate and create work orders for the question.
Just a Finance 101 refresher for everybody for surplus, essentially, and this will be a good fact check, because if I'm describing it rightly, essentially we're charging more than we're going to wind up spend less, but it's still money that we had to collect in taxes that then we're able to then use in future years. So it's essentially overestimating what we've done, and what we've been doing is budgeting closer to our actual expenditures.
Correct. As the budget gets tighter, your cushions and your margins shrink, and as your margins shrink, you put less back into your savings account that you utilize the next year, yes.
Right. And it is accounting, but it's money that we would have had to have collected. So it's not just on paper, we'd have to actually take it from residents in order to put it in the bank.
Sometimes the challenges of tighter and tighter budgets are when something comes up.
Right.
You don't have the wherewithal to respond. You have to do emergency appropriations, you have to do whatever the case may be. So sometimes those tighter budgets stretch out projects because you have to wait till the next budget cycle. We've done a pretty good job this year with the Finance Committee and the staff here managing the budgets the way it came to be. But just be aware that those numbers are gonna shrink.
Right. Like in any budgeting, you need cushions for sure.
Yeah, yep. We were scheduled to have an executive session tonight, and this was to talk about a possible elimination of a title. The title is Assistant Director of DPW Superintendent. Right now, we have something that's called a Rice Notice, and the employees have the opportunity to either have it in executive session, be present, be not present, and the employee, and Doug, he's here, has chosen to have this in open session. So I'm going to take you through this a little bit tonight, and then we can talk about what you want to do at that point. By way of background, over the past 2 years, I've talked about the financial difficulties that our community's been going to be facing. You know, unfortunately, we're here. In anticipation of difficult finances we're going to have this year, we've taken some proactive steps. And by way of example, I can give you a couple. I think you guys all know them, but for the public, it'd probably be important for them to know. When the health officer retired, we entered into a shared service agreement with Lincoln Park at an annual savings of $53,291. And I'm happy to report that shared services worked out very well. We hired a part-time municipal clerk when our clerk resigned, and that's the result of having a part-time clerk saved $73,099.38 for 2019. We eliminated the deputy borough manager position, and I absorbed those responsibilities. Annual savings for that was $13,023.25 for 19. As you know, we offered an incentive program for some of those employees who are near the edge, and near the edge of retirement, and they were just holding on for either benefits or whatever the case may be. We did offer an incentive program for those that were near that retirement age, and one of our supervisors took advantage of that retirement program and did retire. And we're currently, since mid last year, saving some of those funds. I have not replaced that position. So we've been kind of proactive because, as the council knows and the finance committee knows, we knew that these problems were coming. The discussion before the council tonight is how do we resolve the financial problems of the water department. As you know, the water department's a completely separate budget than the general current account and the municipal end. And that the reason that it's separate is because it's a utility, and the water department serves only the water users. It doesn't serve the whole town, so that's why it is a separate budget, just like many utilities are. Over the past several years, we've significantly cut the water budget as a necessity while maintaining the quality service for the water users. But I want to be clear about that. We've cut the services, and the employees have made the quality of the water services seamless. No one has seen the difference, but we have been cutting over the last couple of years. Some of the steps that we've taken, in 2017, we reduced the portion of the engineer's salary charged to the water budget from $72,000 to $37,175, or 49% reduction. In 2018, we reduced the superintendent's salary charged to the water budget from $32,640 to $11,292, or a 65% reduction. As you all know, and as the residents know, because I hear this all the time, the water rates were increased by 4.5% in 17 and 4.5% in 18. Unfortunately, in 2017, the water department had a deficit, which required us to fund in 18 $54,935.03 that was over expended. We did that in 2018, and when you add the deficit to 17 that we had, and you subtract it from 18 where we raised the money, the actual budgets were as follows. 2017, the budget for the water department was $1,572,495. In 18, it was $1,494,111. an additional reduction of $78,384 from the previous year. The request for the water budget is currently at $1,705,860, or an increase of $211,749, or 14%. Since this is a utility, we can only budget based upon the revenues from the previous year, with very few exceptions. There are a couple exceptions, very few. Last year, our revenue, and I'm happy to say with the efforts of the water department and the building department, we did make our numbers last year, but we made them barely. So that's a good thing. So we do not have to budget for any budget deficits this year. The amount of money that we raised was $1,500,168.27. And while that's good that we saved last year's budget, the problem is we have to cut $211,749 at this point to bring the budget down to where the revenues were. I will tell you that the onerous requirements that the DEP has put on the water system, and some of it for good cause and some of it for not cause. We're going to do asset inventories. We're going to have to do valve exercising. We're going to do hydrant exercising. They're asking for more increased water testing. It's difficult. It's difficult to manage all of those things in a little water system. We've been able to do it till now. And while this isn't a very pleasant topic, it's not, but we have to in some way balance the water budget. So we have no choice. But to do one of two options. The two options are either raise the rates of the water users or reduce the staff. Now, nobody wants to reduce staff. Nobody wants to reduce water rates. But we do have to find a way to make this all work. One way to accomplish staff budget reduction is to go back to what we used to have, where a supervisor oversees the water department part-time capacity, and the individuals in public works for the remainder of that time. I discussed this possibility with some of the individuals in our water department. And I also, when we gave that incentive program to one of our individuals, rather than filling that position with a lower salaried employee, I kept that position open to ensure that if in fact this was going to happen, we had a place that our employee could go to if we had to. Our goal is not to displace people. Our goal is not to reduce, people and have them have no job. So I did keep that open for that specific reason. We all knew this was coming. We've all talked about it, and Doug, who's sitting here, knows that this was, he knows that this has been trying, and the water department's worked hard to try and resolve some of these things. Look, if you can't sell water because it rains every day, and you can only base your budget based upon revenues, there's not much we can do about that. I can't make it stop raining, and we can't do much about that. So to put it all into perspective, currently this position of Assistant Public Works Superintendent has a salary of approximately $105,000 for 2019. And that would be the existing salary. If this position went to a full-time supervisor, the salary is lower than that. It's $84,968, but it's plus overtime plus standby pay. And by comparison, this year's existing supervisor, who isn't at full pay yet, the individual that would be at full pay, but the person that I'm referring to in this example is not. That salary was approximately $99,000, but that included salary, overtime, and standby pay. The proposal for this evening, based upon the discussion with the Finance Committee, is to issue a title layoff with civil service for consideration, which is required by law. So in other words, we are eliminating a title, and we have to apply to civil service to do that, and that takes quite a bit of time. This in of itself is not a layoff notice. This is a notice. This is what we're doing is I need a resolution from you if that's the way the governing body wants to go. I need a resolution for you to submit a plan to civil service for them to review. That takes a couple months to get back, and at that point, if in fact it comes back, then you can start that process. So that this process tonight is not necessarily doing that. This is not a layoff notice. This is just applying to civil service to see what their process would be and whether they would accept this. The process takes several months to go through, and if we were to start today, I wouldn't anticipate that this change in title wouldn't actually happen until May 1st. So I guess I want to be clear that this is not a layoff where someone's losing their job. This is a civil service elimination of a title, which would mean the employee would move back to the supervisor position at an hourly rate instead of a salaried position. That's not always pleasant either. I don't want to minimize these type of discussions. But sadly, you know, we have to make some financial recommendations. And this is no bearing on work product. This is not bearing on performance. You heard me say before that as we've been cutting these budgets, the water department has time and time again shown that there's no decline in service to the residents. There's been none. And I don't anticipate that there will be going forward with whatever we decide to do. I guess what I'm suggesting to you is, regardless of what decision the council makes, the water service is not going to be impacted. So we have a couple of choices. We can move forward with submitting that to civil service. In the meantime, we can continue to work on the budget and see if there's any way we can make those ends meet. Just because you submit something at no time does that mean you have to follow through with the process. We can also raise the water rates, but to get a $200,000 water rate, that would be quite a high hike. I'm gonna have to calculate based upon what we estimate the gallonage would be. I have the gallons for this year. I don't think that this year is a good comparison. If I were to tell you that we were gonna use this year's water gallons used for rate increase, I would tell you, you guys would never vote for that. It would be significant. So having said all that, the options tonight are really those three things. The option would be to submit the plan and continue to work on the budget, to quickly put a rate increase, because remember, if we don't pass a rate increase right away, you have to have a first reading, a second reading, then you have to have a 20-day estoppel period. By the time you actually put this into place, it's probably going to be the third quarter billing. So you got to remember, you're not getting a whole year's worth of revenue. Just like if you were to change titles, you wouldn't get a whole year's savings from this either, because this wouldn't be effective, in my estimation, until May or June. So those are the options for this evening. I'm not sure if there's any other way that we can reduce expenses. I've talked about with Doug at length, and there's not a lot we can do there. So our options are limited.
In terms of the raising of rates as a hypothetical, and when we crunch those numbers, it's true we can't go off of last year's usage, but maybe blended 3-year rate over what the community's been using over past years. From a timeline standpoint, I missed the notice window. So if we were to do a first reading in February, second in April, it would go into effect when?
Well, there's a 20-day estoppel period after the ordinance, correct, Mr. Klimek?
Yes.
And then after that, then we would have to do our publishing and do whatever we have to do. So it's really not going to be until the third quarter that this rate becomes effective.
So starting with June usage.
Right.
I think we should do all three. Look at the rates. Leave the finance committee, go through the budget, and at least get the paperwork at the civil service. We still need to meet as a finance committee and struggle with some of the numbers, but we've met in December, and right now it's not a pretty picture. I mean, we still got a lot of money to cut, and we might have to be looking at future layoffs. So unless we come up with some matching numbers.
So I just want to be clear, you're eliminating a position in the water department, is that correct?
One of the recommendations is to do away with this title.
A title or a position? I
Well,
mean,
it's one of-
A title is a job, right?
It's one of the same. In other words,
Right.
this position was created quite a few years ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. If we eliminated that position, Doug would go down to be a supervisor. So it would be eliminating that position and moving him to a different title.
So why did we create the position? Is it something that, like, we needed? I mean, how is it gonna affect, you say the workers have been working seamlessly,
Correct.
but now they're gonna be working with less power, right? People power to.
Well, rather than talk about how we're specifically gonna do that, there's some personnel matters, but yeah, we can, right now, they work independently right now. They work,
Okay.
they have oversight, and there's some reporting that's done, and there's some office type stuff, and there's some, there's some supervision work, but they do work somewhat independently. And we, many years ago, as times were progressing, we were trying to create a position in the water department that, as we were growing and as we were changing things, and as the water department we felt it was necessary, and the financial crisis wasn't in the shape that it is today. As the water department has adjusted, we've had to adjust with it. We have no option. We have to make changes where we see fit to make the budget work. We can't fund more than our revenues. So.
Yeah, I understand that.
So.
I'm just wondering how the elimination of the position, I didn't realize it was only put in 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But it's no different than what we do here when we did away with all those titles, right?
Mhm.
We did away with the deputy borough manager who handled all of our insurance. Well, you know what that means, right? Someone's gonna do that, so I'm doing that. So it's not perfect, but at the end of the day, when we certify the budget, we have to certify that it's a balanced budget and how we're gonna do that. And so these are the options that we have, and I don't want to give up on the fact that we can cut numbers. But when I spoke to the finance committee, we suggested that we have to position ourselves in case we can. Like, what happens? The state has put in more and more onerous tasks. Some of the things that I've gone through is maybe we should sell the water department. And I've talked to Doug directly about this, and maybe, there were other options that maybe we should do. But there's a pro and a con to that. You sell the water department. Look what's happening in Jersey City and Hoboken, and their rates go through the roof. Their service is awful. They don't have community members, responding to their homes. They don't have the kindness and compassion. I don't think that's the answer. And the rates go through the roof. So the residents are paying anyway. So we've looked at a bunch of these options, and we're going to continue to look at these options until we come up with something that's palatable. But it's something that you guys have to give me guidance on.
Well, you need the income to be able to support the state. And with this year, all we've had is rain, and rain.
Never seen the reservoirs so
It's
full.
helped our snow budget, but
Yeah.
it hasn't helped our water.
You had to say it helped us so much.
So you had mentioned, I know that there are very few and that this probably wouldn't qualify, but if we can also, in the avenues that we're exploring, look at the outlying exceptions to revenue-based budgeting and what our alternatives are there, just so that the community knows that we looked at everything. And in terms of, selling the system, regardless of the benefits and some of the decisions that might come with it, I'd rather have to make the bad call than have to delegate it to some corporation elsewhere. At least we have the say, even if it sometimes involves things that we don't like.
Mind you, we looked at that as a possibility because we've been talking about this for a while. I don't encourage that possibility. I think that would be negative for the residents. I don't
Agreed.
think that would be a good
Totally agree.
solution. And even if we were to do that, we would still have to fund the operation this year. We still would have to go through the exercise that we're going through, so.
Yeah. And maybe I said that very badly, but I was agreeing with not selling the water department.
I think I knew what you meant.
Okay. Sometimes I talk in circles.
So, I'm not sure what the council's pleasure is.
So we need a motion to send this to civil service for evaluation? Is that what we have to do?
I think in your book was, I think this, Mr. Freeman, was that in the book? I think it was.
Yeah, it's here. Yeah, it's,
Okay.
can I see that, make sure these are the same?
So we read that into the record? What's this number?
It would be 50.
50? This is Resolution 2019-50, whereas the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Ringwood has reviewed the proposed layoff position of the Assistant Public Works Superintendent set forth in the November 20th, 2018 memo from the Chief Financial Officer to the Borough Manager and proposed submission to the Civil Service Commission. And whereas the current employee holding the position, the superintendent, will be demoted to supervisor of the Public Works under the proposed layoff plan. Whereas for the reasons of economy and efficiency, the mayor and council will approve the proposed layoff plan will be effective no earlier than May 1st, 2019. And now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council, as the appointing authority under the Civil Service Act, approve the proposed layoff plan and submit it to the Civil Service Commission. I will also tell you that I will continue to work on solutions. And I will also look at rates. And Debbie and I spent some time today looking at rates to see what rate we could strike that would be reasonable and could offset some of these things. And so we're going to continue to work the way we're working, but as I said, Mayor, we really need a finance committee. So with that, it's 2019-50.
Motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Peretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
No.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Before we move into the second general public portion, we had a couple questions at the first public portion. Brian, would you like to take, there was a question
Sure.
on the budget yet?
Absolutely. So obviously, as we've heard tonight, there is no, magic wand that can be waved around numbers. I have had the privilege and the challenge of being part of the finance committee this past year and seeing those numbers up close and doing our absolute best with them for the community. What I will say is that there is a delicate balance between costs and services, and it's a line that I think we all, but I definitely pay a very close eye to, because no matter what we do, it's not going to be cheap to live in town. There's not going to be some wave of revenue or influx that's going to have everybody's tax bill. We can do things around the margins for sure, but it's expensive to live in New Jersey. It's the reality that we deal with, in part because of funding the critical need of education and whatnot. But it's going to be expensive, and so we want to make sure that we are not reducing services. We have to deliver value to our residents, and we have to include the services that they need for that. And there is in my mind, a floor to the cost. So while we have to ensure that we are budgeting to pay for things like insurance for our employees, for the gradual raises that everybody in our own individual lives certainly expects, and I don't think that we can begrudge that for our municipal employees if we want them to, A, stay here and be engaged and take care of residents the way we want them to be engaged with. And so that unfortunately leads to a situation where your costs, much like the price of milk, are going to go up over time. So in terms of closing some of those gaps, ecotourism has never been something that is going to necessarily directly impact the municipal budget or the tax revenue that we receive. But what it can do is change the community that we're a part of. It's not about what money flows into this building, but it's about the community that we all live in. How does that help support the businesses in town? Does that let a shop open? And so it's really just part of that broader picture, not necessarily just the municipal budget. I will say, it may be an elephant in the room, I don't know, or maybe it's just on my mind. But the other thing that we try to do is weigh options and reserve judgment. So we had obviously the ordinance in November regarding marijuana, and right now it's still illegal, and it remains to be. But what we did see some prudence in and some value in is waiting to see what that financial picture looks like. What is the backdrop going to be within the state, and does that present a possible revenue opportunity for our town without necessarily incurring some of the more sensitive concerns for the community. So for example, a dispensary, a retail dispensary, is not something that myself or the freshmen, as we call it, movie freshmen, find appealing or appropriate. However, a production facility that would be out of sight, out of mind, growing and shipping elsewhere, don't want to dismiss that out of hand. And but particularly if it's something that can provide revenue for the town without some of the negative consequences that might come with a dispensary. That's my little speech.
Also, what we've done is we've asked for an energy audit to see if we could reduce cost. I know that Scott and the municipal employees have been working on that to see if we can get costs done. One of the things that we just passed was an Economic Development Commission, which hadn't been in effect for over 10 years. We have people that are in business in town. We have people from the Chamber of Commerce that are working hard to look for economic opportunities for our community that maybe will grow. We're also always looking to see what we can do to reduce cost and grow income. So one of the things I'd like to see us do is a cost efficiency analysis, where we can look at how everything is run at the municipal level to see where we can save money, and also to hear from the employees, employee surveys, to see how things are going, and to really get a sense of where the money's spent. Thank you.
Okay. Can John and Scott speak to Joanne Adams?
Regarding the Environmental Commission's comment and request for an independent analysis of the groundwater feasibility study, we've had Laura Dodge, Excel Environmental Services, working for the town since I want to say sometime 2009 or so. She is the most familiar with the site. Prior to, after the feasibility study was issued for the 3 land areas, Laura and Wanda put together a position paper for the borough, analyzing all the information that was gathered and put into the feasibility studies, and did a public presentation of that. I think we can do something similar in this instance and have Laura and Wanda write something up that that'll give you a sense of what the potential outcomes are and how they would impact the town, or the town's water supply, I should say. I don't know if that satisfies the independent nature. They said they wanted an independent review. An independent review would require a new and different consultant who's never looked at this information to analyze all the data going back as far as they've been collecting groundwater data, and that might be prohibitively expensive, especially in this particular budget picture. But I think the another position paper might be in order to try to pull something like that together.
Is it something that we could put a request out to universities or academics to see if they might be able to do a review for less or for nothing, or at least put it out to see what it would cost, so we at least explore the option of independent study?
Yeah, I was at the Environmental Commission meeting the other day, and they didn't want the Cornerstone report because that was done by Ford, and Laura works for the insurance company, so both of those are skewed in a way towards what's cheaper for both of them. So it was a unanimous vote by the Environmental Commission that we do look for an independent. So I'd like to at least explore that opportunity for us to get an independent analysis of the data that's already been compiled. They're not asking them to go out and regather all the data, but to use the data that's already in the Jacobs report and the Cornerstone report.
Well, the Jacobs report is only really commenting on data that was,
Also in the EPA, right?
and not complete, I might add. But one clarification is, you folks appoint Laura Dodge. The insurance companies pay the bill, so she responds to us. They don't have any interaction with her other than approving bills and authorizing her to do different things. Well, I don't have a problem with getting proposals from people. I think it would be a rather onerous task with the volume of material that they have to look through. I don't think it's as simple as just going through some tables, and I think an engineering firm or an environmental firm would love to roll their sleeves up and delve into it. I mean, I could try and get quotes, but I would guess they're going to be in the six figures. So.
I'd rather ask the question and then say no, than not ask, personally.
So I will, how about I talk to Wanda and Laura and ask if they can help me
Try to put together an RFP.
Put together an RFP, yes, like that's not gonna be a simple, and keep in mind that the feasibility study is an incomplete document. What it does is, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, a feasibility study that Cornerstone is required to put into, for EPA for their consideration, does the feasibility of different scenarios. Like, and what happens with that feasibility study is then the EPA then says, it asks for input, it reviews the feasibility study, and then from that feasibility study, the EPA then determines what remedy they want to do. And the EPA may choose one of those items, they may alter one of those items, or they may they may throw them all out. At the same time, the DEP reviews the same document and comes up with their independent review of the document, because A, it's in New Jersey, and B, they own, everybody forgets that they're part owner of this site. So while, and I quite frankly talked to the reservoir and I have a pretty good conversation. I talked to the reservoir today, and they're paying attention to this. They want to make, listen, they're in the water business, they're paying attention, and while they're watching what's going on, they're also keeping mindful of the fact that they don't want to hire any professionals until such time as they've decided that the EPA has come up with a plan. There's no sense wasting money in their eyes on looking at a review of all the different plans until the EPA has decided. At that time, they're going to determine whether it's appropriate or not appropriate. And I'm not suggesting that we follow their path, but we keep in pretty good communication, the executive director and myself, over these kind of things, because we're very concerned about groundwater and we want to watch it as well. So, if you want, Mayor, I will ask Laura and Wanda to try to give me some parameters, and I can get back to all of you.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Okay. We have our second general public portion. If anyone wants to speak, please speak, give your name, address.
Rich Eversbach, 120 Upper Lakeview Ave. Just maybe to clarify a little bit about the, first of all, it wasn't a unanimous vote.
Oh, I thought it was.
No. And really, the way I understood it was to try to get a little more clarification on the remedial, I guess there's a couple of, maybe 5 or 6 different levels of remediation for the groundwater. Because the other ones we already have, everybody's agreed, everybody's in agreement on that. Now it's just how we're going to deal with Peters Mine. Essentially, that's what we're talking about, Peters Mine. Mm-hmm. The water that's coming out of that mine, which I think we talked about maybe last meeting, was right from the beginning, we were talking about, I think everybody was talking about capping Peters Mine. there was no question that we were going, that Peters Mine was going to get capped. The only question was whether or not we were going to excavate O'Connor. So we're just coming full circle, and I think, from my perspective, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but seems that we may, or maybe you can answer this question for me, are we in a position right now to kind of negotiate a mechanism where if we're going to, one of the options is to monitor the groundwater. I mean, I think we're going to monitor regardless of what happens for the next 100 years. We're going to be monitoring the groundwater here. At least that's my understanding. And let's just say in 5 years from now, we start to see numbers increasing, okay? I would like to know, personally, what is the mechanism and how is Ringwood protected from the liability if that were to occur, that we would have to start over again. So, in other words, where's the liability lie, and when? Right now, the groundwater feasibility study is saying that basically to go ahead with the cap and monitor and maybe treat the mine, the air shaft in the mine, and there's different degrees of that. So what we've seen in 50 years, there hasn't been any increases. We've been seeing decreases in some of the numbers, or most of the numbers, if not all of them. Let's just say that trend continues, and that's where we leave it. However, if that was to move in the other direction in the next, say, 5 or 10 years, however unlikely that is, isn't this our time right now to say, no, we need to be ensured that, Ford is going to be, and not that we're going to get left on a hook, basically. That's what I'm saying. So that would be my biggest concern going forward at that. And just to respond to the question I had about the budget gap, we are talking about a lot of money here. So I don't know how much a feasibility study is actually going to, save. I think you acknowledged the way, I think you had acknowledged Borough Manager Heck from the Green Team.
I did, yes.
So, here's a guy that's running a show before the Green Team was even formed, very efficiently. And I think you should give him an award, but that's just my opinion.
It's nothing to
That's up to
say
you
against-
guys. But I think there's a lot to be said, honestly. I do think there's a lot to be said about that. Here we are running a town. I think, again, from what I've seen, it's been run pretty efficiently. And maybe we could, do an assessment and save a little bit here and there. To Councilman Bolton, it's not going to be cheap to live here. Well, I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But I think the question is, how are we going to get there? That's my question. Are we going to raise taxes 100% to cover the gap? Are we going to cut services? What is it going to be? A third, and third? Where are we getting the revenues? How has anybody come up with any ideas for revenues, for additional revenues in the town? How do we do that? That's the only way. We're not going to raise taxes and cut services. So really, that's my question. Are we looking to knock out just what's $1 million going to cost the average homeowner? In taxes. If we got to come up with $1 million, how much are my taxes going up? I don't know. Do you?
250
a year?
ish. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Somewhere around there. regional or local schools.
That's
Both
on our,
county.
that's on our,
That's just on the
our.
municipal side,
The
yes.
municipal side, if.
Or the county.
If my
Or the county.
recollection is correct, is about 20%.
21.
So
21.
now you're talking about 1,000. Suddenly it jumps to 1,000. I mean, if these are the numbers that we're talking about. So 250 is great, you know? I could live with that, but once we start, multiplying that, it becomes a different scenario year after year after year after year, going forward 10 years from now, so. Thank you, that's all I got to say.
I guess I have to clarify. The vote was 6-1, and Rich, you were the only one who voted no, so I guess you know about it. We've been looking at the Jacobs report, and we've been looking at the new report coming from Cornerstone. And, the people on the Environmental Commission have put in a lot of time, a lot of work. And what we'd like to see is fresh eyes. I respectfully, if I could have input with the borough manager and maybe help this along. I think I could get somebody, like, not very much money.
Well, you're definitely not a stranger to my office.
Right. So I would like to have access to your office again and go through this with you and explain to you some of the concerns that we have had, one of which is in the Jacobs report. He clearly says that their main concern is 1,4-dioxin. They can deal with everything else, but they can't deal with the 1,4-dioxin if it comes into the reservoir. And if it reaches the entry point, it's here in the Jacobs report. If it reaches the entry point, they are going to have to redo a lot of things at the reservoir, like machinery and all kinds of things that will cost, as he says, a lot of money. And they're going to go back to the EPA. It says it right here. They're going to go back to the EPA if that happens. And the EPA is going to point their finger at Ford and that fickle finger at Ringwood as well. So I think that it would really bear us well for the future, for now, the future, who knows? I mean, who knows if 1,4-dioxin is going to go to that entry point? None of us know. And it's a gamble. And this might be a less expensive way to get out of our trouble. Anyway.
Well, the Jacobs report has some edits to it since then, and I believe that there's some more updated information. But you certainly know my number, and you can come and see me anytime.
I will.
I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, terrific.
Venkatol, 24 High Point Lane. First of all, the borough has entered into a term sheet agreement with Ford, which in 2013, where they have agreed with Ford that the groundwater at the site would be monitored. Nothing else. Monitored natural attenuation, along with other things as building the recycling center, capping O'Connor, giving the old recycling center to the community, and this is all in exchange for $4.5 million. So I don't think the borough, unless they're going to break that term sheet agreement with Ford, is going to be able to do anything. I'm sorry to say. It's a big worry. And 1,4-dioxane is a big problem. the levels of the contamination in the water, in the groundwater at the site, has not changed. It's been the same for 50 years. Maybe some have gone down a little bit, not 1,4-dioxane. It's pretty high. And that is what the reservoir is worried about. As of right now, the feasibility study does not call for any pumping and treating at all. They just call for monitored natural attenuation, which has been going on since it was listed, I think, in 1984. But what happened there was they actually stopped doing it. So I can see that happening again. They're just going to stop doing it when they feel like it. Ford's going to say, oh, there's nothing there. We don't have to test it anymore. I think the EPA should just let us stop testing. So, but anyway, that's another story. It's a serious situation that really is not being addressed properly by this council. Okay, I wasn't going to talk about that tonight, but I wasn't going to talk about anything, but as things progress during the meeting, I have a couple of questions. First of all, has Kelly Hallowitz filed any kind of a lawsuit against the borough manager or the borough? She left so quickly, it was a surprise to everyone. She didn't even mention she was leaving at her last meeting. Something must have been going on there. Also, you mentioned, Scott, that there's going to be new water testing required by the DEP. I'm wondering what they are. And also, when you were discussing the savings that you're doing in this new year, the budget year, by making the clerk a part-time position, by doing away with the deputy borough manager, that's all well and good, but the deputy manager was never a position until it was made for you, Mr. Heck. It never existed before. Kelly at the time was manager and clerk. You were deputy manager. And then when Kelly was demoted, she became deputy manager. So now Kelly's gone and the clerk is part-time, and those positions, I guess, aren't needed anymore. I don't think they were needed in the first place, but they existed for one reason or another. In the water department, I think you've been doing a lot of bonding. So that might be one of the problems with the revenue stream. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Have a motion?
Seeing no one else, move to close.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor, I'm going to address any of those items, or?
Yes.
The term sheet does not exactly say that. The term sheet says that if in fact that there is an agreement, if there is natural attenuation and monitoring of the ringwood. So I think if you read that, you'll find that it's, I don't have it, I'll bring it to your next meeting, but that's not what that term sheet says. I'm not going to talk about the groundwater. I have not been served any suit of any kind, so I don't know what she's referring to. There are a lot of different types of new water testing. We have to do new water testing. There's some new tests that are required. There are some new testing of valves and hydrants, and we have to test our 12 inches at a different period of time. And there's some water testing that have changed. It's all on the Water Watch. You can get it right off of there. That's what the new requirements are for those type of testings. Relative to the new positions, I've been here for 11 years, so obviously those positions for the last 11 years were needed for one capacity or another, and I'm here to tell you that we're struggling to do the work of some of these individuals. I would not suggest that Kelly, as a deputy borough manager, handling our workers' comp, handling our insurance, handling our property and casualty insurance, just to name a few, would be something that isn't insignificant. Insurance has changed radically. Chapter 78, where you started to take employee contributions, who's covering kids to age 26 in the new insurance regulations. All these things have taken on a new life in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So to suggest that these titles were not something that was needed is probably unfair and unrealistic. Yes, I was a deputy borough manager, and I was probably the first deputy borough manager. And I served in that capacity until such time as our director of public works retired. So that's just the way that is, and if in fact that public record, I don't have any, I'm not embarrassed by that, and I'm not ashamed to report that I've served in several capacities here. In terms of the bonding being for a revenue stream, bonding has nothing to do with revenue streams. Revenue stream is born based upon the users of the water system that buy water, and that's where the revenue stream is from. Bonding is a cost, very true, but I don't think the water system, the things that we're bonding for in the water system are like water tanks and water line improvements and new pumping.
Things that are DEP or requiring.
Things that are required, and I will remind you that during the tenure of the last speaker, some of these reports came to light where they were required to redo these tanks and required to do these things. So unfortunately, when I came here, yes, as deputy borough manager, I saw these things, and then when I became the director of public works and the water superintendent, my goal is absolutely to improve the water system to a point where we can guarantee the quality of the water and the quantity of the water. We've done that. We've improved our wells. We've put in monitoring for the water system. When I came here, do you know that we had a snapshot in time? Yes, I'm getting a little irritated because I'm thinking back at what it was like when I first came here, when Ms. Tall left. And when I think back to, there was a snapshot in time where we were monitoring the pH of the water, and some, you know, in the chlorine, and it was that one moment when the guy went in there at 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning, and he took a sample, and they said, yep, pH is good, or no, pH isn't good. And then, so let's add some more, let's raise this pump up, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll test the pH. Well, folks, let me tell you something about pH. If you have the wrong pH in the water, and it happened in Skyline, where the wrong pH actually irritated the skin of a baby to the point where his whole arms had rashes and burned their skin, because pH is so important. Chlorine is so important. Chlorine is what kills the contact for any kind of bacteria in our water system. Now, as you know now, all of you counselors, some of the upgrades, we have alarms that monitor this every 2 minutes. It's tied to the cell phone in the police desk, so that when there's a high chlorine or a low chlorine, we now know. When the tanks get low, we now know. When we have a problem where the pumps aren't working, we now know. We know we didn't have generators as backup for our water system. We had pumps and tanks that didn't work unless we had generators hooked up. We had to drive them down there if we could get them there. But we didn't even know it was happening until the tank was drained. And then the folks didn't have the opportunity to have water or take showers. That's unhealthy. So yes, we have invested a lot of money in the water system. And you know what? Our residents deserve it. So I'm sorry if we did that. If some people feel that that was wrong, I'm here to tell you that we have a state-of-the-art water system, and we continue to make improvements, and we will continue to make improvements as long as we can afford it. The problem with revenue is we've had a reduction in sales due to the serious water problems, the rain that we've had. We have just not sold the water. And in addition, the onerous requirements that the DEP keeps putting on us, some of them are good requirements, some of them are not, cost. So I'm sorry if I got a little animated, Mayor, but when it comes to water, I'm pretty serious about it. Thank you.
You utilize technology to cut down also on man hours.
Well, yeah, when I was here.
And improve the real-time monitoring.
I came here, we were purchasing from Passaic Valley Water. Passaic Valley Water, I was purchasing $380,000 a year. $380,000 a year through monitoring and improvements and technology We now monitor our pumps, and we draw at different times. We improved our wells. We now purchase between $20,000 and $40,000 a year. That's real savings. So yes, we have invested in a water system.
Thank you, Scott. Members of the council, we have a lot of stuff in executive session, so making comments and try to keep them brief.
Oh, you're looking at me when you're saying that. I've already talked a lot tonight, so it's easier to be brief. Thank you, Paula, for bringing up the topic of mental illness and stigma-free. It's unfortunate and sad that we have to take those steps, but I'm glad that we did. It's not something that was top of mind otherwise for me, anyway. So I learned a bit, and happy that the community is moving in that direction. I'll save everything else. We can revisit.
Wow. Thank you. John?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Troy?
First off, I just want to thank Mr. Adler for coming by. He's a lifetime resident. And just so everybody understands, he's not losing his job. Like so many other positions within the borough, he's changing hats. Nothing's set in stone forever as far as positions, as all things change. I mean, look at the changes in retail around the world. People are everything's changing. Technology and the demographics and everything is changing. So with that, you have to be able to be open to changing positions within the borough. Some positions are just not even needed. Some are. Luckily, we're not losing Doug. He's just going to switch where, the title within the borough. As far as the efficiency study, I seem to remember something we got a number of months ago that we had considered. This was already put up for consideration, but we had also seen what one of the outfits that does these feasibility efficiency studies. We had seen the results of what they had used in West Milford, and a lot of those things we had already instituted here in Ringwood. So to spend the money, why don't we, look at what other towns have done with these? It's all open public record, so why don't we look at what some of these other towns have done, and instead of spending the money to just rehash what another town is, Westmore's very similar, just utilize that. As far as saying that a skewed report by licensed professionals, I can't wrap my head around that. Who would risk, we're one of probably many clients that these environmental outfits and engineering firms, they're not going to risk their license by skewing something in particular. There's just no way. The only other thing I'm big about, taking care of your neighbors. For those, I know I got a couple of what they call blue alerts from the county, automated. Again, we are in unbelievably cold temperatures. Check out your neighbors, especially the elderly. Knock on the door, bring them a cup of tea, make sure they're okay.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, really just to address the water superintendent situation, or the water, I should say, budget situation. I hate that we have to eliminate a position. I do like that Doug's going to have a job. Hopefully he'll have an opportunity to move up the ladder again. What it comes down to is we have to look at every opportunity, within the budget to save money. I'd hate to raise rates too. Obviously, it looks like all three things are going to happen. But as Scott was talking about service being nice for the water department, it's also, like we all know, we're not going to watch our taxes go down. It's not likely. But it'd be nice for services to increase as taxes stay stable. So that's another one of our goals relative to watching the numbers and what we can do for the residents. And like Sean said, watch out. I heard we're getting a lot of snow. I don't know if it's actually going to pan out this time, but yeah.
Depends on
Look
temperature.
out for your neighbors.
Depends on temperature.
Just the temperatures and not the snow? Well, if it's right now it's a lot of rain on Saturday, but Oh, all right. but it could very well be snow if it moves slightly.
I saw a scary map. Maybe it was
Yes.
just a Facebook map or something. Anyway, everybody stay safe. Thank you.
Kathy?
Yeah, when I suggested an efficiency study, it wasn't to throw shade at our borough manager at all. An efficiency study is done routinely at most corporations. I worked at Mercedes-Benz for 20 years, and I think we had 3 of them in the time that I was there. To say the one that was done for West Milford is sufficient, I think it's best to look at what we're doing here when we make judgment calls rather than deciding on what the report said for West Milford. Obviously, there's a lot in this report, but I don't think it all applies to us. We should have it done here so that we understand how it applies. And an important thing is to hear from the employees and look at staffing. We've been losing positions. How is that affecting the morale around here? I have no idea. This is something I think that would benefit the community, and I still stand by the fact that a cost efficiency audit is what most corporations do to make sure that they're utilizing every penny in the proper fashion. So, other than that, I want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for the beautiful signs they've put up. They're really nice. I see them going in and out of Ringwood. I do appreciate them, and I thank them for putting them up there.
I just want you to know that that was a shared service with the Borough of Ringwood. You paid for part of those, but the Chamber of Commerce did a great job. And just so you know, as I mentioned at
You
that
even
meeting,
welcomed it.
I didn't oppose an efficiency study.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, just a couple of comments to me. Stigma-free, I have family members that are going through mental illness. For full disclosure, I work for a company, New Bridge Services. We deal with everything from handicapped, mentally ill, homeless people. And it's and we have residents who have various capacity issues, but function fully in their daily lives, and it's important to encourage it. We're not Mercedes-Benz. We're not a public corporation. We operate on tax dollars. Most corporations operate on sales, okay? And, we can only function on the taxes we raise. We have the Finance Committee has met once. We've gone through a bunch of emails, and looking at numbers, it's gonna be a tough year. I don't want people to get scared and think they're gonna get $1 million increase, but there's gonna be, we're gonna have to look at different things. What not to buy. Payroll is one of the items. It's not always a pleasant thing, but we have to manage the budget. We did have a tax increase last year. We had spoke in last year's budget that this year was gonna be a worse year because of certain tax appeals. And so it's important that all the council members meet. You have a group of council members serving as the Finance Committee. And when we make recommendations, it's not with just a jolly. It's something that we do seriously and for the benefit of the council and the town. So, and then one of the things when you're building a budget is you try to build in there for that one event, that one catastrophe that can possibly happen in a year. It could be a hurricane, it could be a disaster, and you have to still be able to respond to the unknown. So you have to be able to have a fairly balanced budget and be able to anticipate the unanticipated, and that's what becomes difficult. So, that being said, for the Finance Committee,
Okay, I'm ready.
I'd like to have Ryan, and I'd like to have Rod.
Councilman Bolton,
Yeah.
Rob Ferretti? And yourself? or
Yes.
so? Okay.
And that's all I have to say.
You want to go into executive session?
Yes, I was just
I think you
looking at
need a whole new
document.
resolution.
Well, I think we covered, I see a document here, is contracts for chief, captain, lieutenant?
No, we're gonna hold those to the
Okay,
next meeting.
All right. I think, no, we had the resolution, we had an amendment to the resolution, adding another item. So this would just be the motion to go in. That's it.
We added 2 items.
We had 2 items, okay.
Did you added McManus Hall already?
Yeah, that was in.
Okay.
Okay. Could be just a motion then?
So moved. Second?
Roll call?
Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Noonan?
Yes.
Council members Bolton?
Yes.
Ferretti?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.